Hey everybody, I'm here with Adept again, and we're doing a part 2 of our Dungeon Master Brennan Mulligan answering some questions, and we're going to critique it. This time we're going to let him go through his questions, go through his points in their entirety before we pause. We're going to try and be better at that.
Yeah, and I will say, I listened back on the last video and it sounded like I was saying Brendan. I know his name is Brennan, but with the braces and my nose being all stopped up, it sounds like Brendan. It is Brennan, but we'll see how it
Brennan
goes.
Mulligan.
Yeah, Brennan Lee Mulligan. All right. Let me go ahead and play it.
Go ahead.
At Ride the Dirt, also just some leftist, hell yeah. What is a golden rule you try to follow for hashtag DnD or other hashtag TTRPG for folks at home? That's tabletop role-playing game. The golden rule I try to follow is you're playing with your fellow players, first and foremost. If you follow every rule and stay completely in line with the module, the books are never gonna say thank you. You're playing with other human beings at the table. Stay tapped in to what their experience is. Are they having fun? Are you all telling a story together? That is the measure of a great tabletop game.
Oh, dang, I missed it. I meant to pause it right there. Hold up. Let me go back.
Yeah.
You follow every rule and stay completely in line with the module, the books are never gonna say thank you. You're playing with other human beings at the table. Stay tapped in to what their experience is. Are they having fun? Are you all telling a story together? That is the measure of a great tabletop.
Okay.
There we go. All right, so what do you think? I'll let you start on this one.
Let's see, he says, the golden rule I try to follow is you're playing with your fellow players first. Okay. Okay, he kind of says that word for word. It sounds good at first. Your experience at the table needs to be catered to your table, so not every table is going to be the same.
Agreed.
I worry a little bit on it. A lot of times, sometimes homebrew rules and things like that can, it's good if you know what you're doing. I don't know. I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, well, I think that his advice is honestly pretty solid. I just worry that some people are going to take it the wrong way. He talks about, the rules don't let them like constrain you, and that's true in the fact that if you're at the game table and someone can't quite remember the correct rule, just keep playing. It doesn't matter, but you should learn the rules. Which
Yeah.
I don't think Brennan is saying that you shouldn't learn the rules. In his games, his players, they do know the rules. I don't appreciate everything about his games, but that I really appreciate is that no one was
Yes.
like, "What is this rule? How does that work?" They were all very knowledgeable. Talking about the books is really good. Modules. If you are deciding to run a module, there is zero chance that you're going to be able to run it as written because modules, by necessity, kind of make assumptions on what players are going to do, and that's not always correct.
Yeah.
What he says about focusing on the humans at the table, are they having fun? Fun in and of itself it's a good thing to have, but it's not necessarily the goal. But you shouldn't have a table if you're playing at a table where your style is not fun for the other people. This is not necessarily, and we like role playing, talking in character and stuff like that. But if someone honestly does not enjoy that, I'll just tell them, hey man, you should go play somewhere else because I don't want you to be here not having fun, not enjoying it. You tried it and you don't like it, that's fine.
Absolutely.
It's important to communicate and be open with that. Telling a story together, I'm not sure Brennan agrees with that. He's very much in he kind of writes a pre-written thing and kind of forces his players to go along with it. And he's very good at improv. So that's what's confusing to me is like, why are you doing that when he's so good at improv?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's wasted opportunity.
That's just what I think.
Yeah. One thing this does bring to mind for me is kind of the rulings over rules mentality, which I think is best served in when there's a gap in the rules or things like that, but not all the time willy-nilly. Like, I'm going to feel cheated if the rule changes from one session to the next to the next. Consistency is key.
That's true. I will say there are some, everyone has their own likes and dislikes. And if you're playing a game that has a rule for literally everything and the rules are just not jiving with you, even if the rules are written well, I think it's okay for your table to just kind of homebrew that rule out if you understand why the rule is there and you understand the
Right.
consequences, or just play a different game. I think a lot of people get stuck into one game, especially D&D, but even other games, like, you don't have to play that game. Keep looking for a game that really fits your table very well.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go on. Oh, sorry, do you have more?
I think that covers it. Let's go.
Awesome.
Game. At PHX Mall asks, what's your favorite character race and class combo for D&D? I tend to come back to Paladin and Wizard. I love a Paladin's oath, striving for honor and justice. We did a photo shoot a while back with wonderful Andrew Max Levy as a Paladin. Who doesn't love a knight in shining armor? It's a classic hero archetype. And you get to smite. Who doesn't love to smite? Give me those D8s. And I also like wizards because they're very magical, but they weren't born that way. They had to work very hard to get magical, and I identify with that. But for the person asking this question of, is there a certain advantage? Typically, there are certain things that dovetail. Like if you're gonna play a barbarian, which is a strength-based class, there are gonna be certain ancestries that give you a bonus to strength in some editions of the game. There's also some fun stuff about playing a character that's a little bit more well-rounded. Every so often it can be cool, even if you're playing a strength-based character, to go, oh, and because of this part of my background, I have a weird little cantrip or a magic spell I can do. Even though it might not be optimal, that weird little power that doesn't exactly fit into your build may be the thing that saves you and your friends from a total party kill.
All right, I'll go first on this one.
Go ahead.
I'm not really going to respond to his preferences, but if you ask me what's my favorite class and race combo, human fighter. Longsword.
I already know.
Time to game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically the one from Skyrim. The Skyrim ad.
I mean, Paladin is great. Wizard is great. I mean, all the classes I think at their core are fine. I like, if you're gonna have classes, they should have strong archetypes, and Wizard and Paladin definitely do. I think it's funny that he just didn't want to choose a race. Maybe it's because he's a dungeon master most of the time, so he doesn't really care. But yeah, human is the best race because it's so flexible.
Indeed. Yeah, I like how he said Paladin. That's my favorite as well. I like how he opened with, oh, they have the oath, and the wizard is like this, talking about role-playing stuff. And then when he started talking about race, he started talking about like bonuses and things. I was like, oh. But it's fair enough. When you make a character in D&D, it's a build, so you can't really fault him for that. But I like humans as well because it's the most relatable, easiest to roleplay.
Yes, most of us are humans.
I wonder about some of us, but
yes, the lizard people in the government.
yeah. Some of our friends, maybe.
Yeah, I think that was a good question.
Yeah. It's fine. Yeah, it was good. Role-playing some other races can be fun. Of course, it depends on your setting. You got to respect the setting and the tone. And then you got to understand how to role-play a different race that is something completely alien to you.
I like when the races in a certain setting are clearly defined. Unfortunately, D&D has to deal with being the role-playing game, and so has to kind of spread itself extremely thin. It's supposed to be Tolkien-esque, but also there's a bunch of stuff that's really not that way. In more focused games, I enjoy it more because you actually have something to build off of, and that's one reason why in D&D human is generally the best to me, because the humans are humans. They're already so diverse. And you can roleplay that easily. But if you're playing an elf in a D&D game, I mean, table to table to table, that can mean completely different things. Or at one table can mean completely different things at that same table. And it doesn't really work for me.
Yeah. I don't even dislike D&D for that reason. I see the appeal in keeping it more open so you can do what you want with it.
Mhm.
But yeah, as a dungeon master or as players even, if you want to input on the setting, you got to decide what those races are like and you got to put effort into that.
Yeah, definitely got to
If,
decide.
yeah.
All right.
If you just start the game, it's not going to be very defined.
Even the I'm not sure. I've not looked at the 5.5 rules, but in fifth edition, I think it was okay. Like the lore, it described it adequately enough. Some of it was still kind of we'll see. All right.
I never even
At
cared about
Delu-
races when I played.
Yeah, that's right.
I cared about the classes. I didn't care about the race that much or the background. I was just like,
That's true. I'm just
pick
glad
a
human
class.
was obviously the best with the feet. I didn't even care.
Obviously.
I just chose human without. I didn't even play a variant human the first time I played because I didn't care.
Mm,
Delusional Do 1. How do you handle a TPK? Do you full reset or just pick up at the last save spot?
Now, hold on. Sorry, I gotta break the rule here. The insanity
What?
of Delusional Doodle is correct in his naming. He's based because he understands himself. He is delusional. What
Oh
do you mean
god.
the last save spot? Are you actually talking about D&D and TTRPGs? He has the hashtags for it, but like he obviously maybe he's coming from Baldur's Gate and he's just
That's what I
cosplaying the
was
hobby.
that's what I was thinking. Did he just come from Baldur's Gate? What you mean save spot, dude?
Sorry, I had to break the rule there. Let's finish it.
Any other things you like to do after a party wipe? Handling a TPK, which for folks at home is a total party kill. It is when every member of an adventuring party dies all at once. I think sometimes the best way to handle a TPK is before it happens. If you're heading towards a battle that is absolutely punishing and stands a chance of really wiping out everybody in the party, say it. Say it above the table and say it in game. Have a moment where you check in with your players and go, hey, no shame in running. This has a chance of killing everybody in the party. Take your time. You approach the dungeon. Drums beat in the dark. Fires flicker from torchlight. The smell of death is everywhere. Taking the time to add some gravitas can sometimes wake your players up and go, oh, our buddy is suddenly being very dramatic and serious. I think we might be in trouble. If you do all that due diligence and say, hey, you can make a brave last stand here, you all may die. When they do, they had some agency in it. The thing that makes a TPK really unbearable is when players feel like it happened for no reason.
What do you think about that?
So I actually agree with what he's saying here, but of course I have some things to say. So danger probably should be signposted. I know in real life it isn't always signposted, but you can feel cheated if you just say, "Oh, boulders fall down and you're all dead immediately." You know that sucks.
Yeah.
So I'm with the signposting. What I'm not with would be saying, "Guys, we might actually die here." Like, just say that in the session 0. And you're playing with mature adults, it should be understood from the get-go that's a possibility at any time. And then you don't have to say it anymore.
Yeah,
Simple as.
the beginning of his answer I was very ugh, that sounds awful. But when
Yeah.
when he
That's right.
described it, like describing the scene, that was great, I think that's
Absolutely.
good. That's all you need to do. Like you don't need to say, guys, hey guys, this is gonna be a tough fight. Like who describe
Don't
it
do
to the
that.
characters. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
Another thing though is he was describing how you have to describe it beforehand, but even like signposting it like that with the description, it kind of robs you for some story options. And by story options, I mean events, like just normal things. Like there are many stories that you read, right? And we're not writing the story beforehand, but we're talking about if you talk about it afterwards, where there's a horrible ambush or a horrible catastrophe that nobody saw coming. And the story is what they do once they're smacked in the face with it.
Right.
And so if you signpost all this danger all the time, then you can't get stories like that.
Mm,
And I'm not talking about like you were saying where, oh, a boulder falls and you all die. Like that's lame.
yeah.
But if you
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
there's like a insane, like there's a hurricane coming through the village, you know, then it's like, okay, well, they have some time to figure out how to shelter and how to save their loved ones, you know, and that's not necessarily. I think most of this person asking the question is talking about combat encounters. They're not talking about just
Yeah.
encounters in general. So if you're talking about a combat encounter, like you don't have to tell them beforehand that this ambush is gonna be super deadly, right? But if the ambush happens, you can describe then, like, describe the like somehow describe to them that these are some elite forces. Maybe they have an emblem that one of your character recognizes, that their village was destroyed by this, I don't know, crack squad of orcs. I don't know. But
Right.
you spring it on them in character, and you can show them in character how it's dangerous, right? But I just feel like trying to signpost it all the time can rob you of some options.
You're right on that for sure.
Anyways, but yeah, his description was great. I think you should just stick to that.
Yeah. And don't ask how many hit points people have.
Oh goodness. Don't do that. Don't try to avoid the TPK in the moment. I'm glad he didn't say that, even though he does it.
Yeah, I was worrying he was going to say something like that. Okay, let's go on.
What happened?
You go ahead.
At sessions canceled. Why do we always start games in tavern?
Sessions
Some groups
canceled.
tend to make their characters isolated from one another. Where do people congregate? In a medieval setting, in a public house, in a place of drink and libation and revelry. I would say probably there's a deeper answer here, and I haven't seen anything written about this, but I would hazard a guess that it is in maybe unconscious homage to the Inn of the Prancing Pony in Bree, where Strider first meets the hobbits in Lord of the Rings, which is a seminal text and serves as the basis for a lot of the lore within Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think a lot of people are just calling back to that Tolkien-esque thing, but sometimes people have very disconnected characters and it makes sense for them to join there. I thought that was a pretty good answer.
Yeah, not much to say. Another thing is it could be a meeting point for lots of different types of people.
Yeah.
So quest hooks and things.
This next question comes to us from @RottenWork. Does anyone have any tips for a first-time DM? I'm having my first session 0 for a campaign tomorrow, and I am nervous, LOL. First of all, laughter will help, so I'm glad that you're lolling. Second of all, you're doing a session 0? My friend, you're way ahead of the curve. Session 0, for those who don't know, is a pre-campaign session where DMs will line up. Sometimes people will do character creation there. Sometimes that happens beforehand, and the session 0 is just to line up what the adventure is going to be about, any rules of engagement. So the fact that you have got your situation buttoned up enough that you're doing a session 0, you're off to a great start. Second of all, tips. What's the nugget? Brennan, what's the secret little sauce? There's not one. You gotta slug it out like the rest of us. You gotta get your hands dirty. You gotta jump in 2 boots first and run the game. Is your first session gonna be clean? Are you gonna remember every rule? Are you gonna nail every NPC? Maybe yes, maybe no, but the point is this. Your first session is the learning experience. You're gonna jump in and you're gonna learn so much more in that first session than any internet dungeon master could tell you. That being said, the answers lie in your players. Just listen to them, tap into what is bringing them joy, and you will do wonders, my friend.
I thought he said the answer is lying to your players for a second. I was like, what?
It's good advice. There is no catch-all magic solution. I almost feel like it's non-advice. Just go out there and do it. So for me, I'm gonna steal a genreism. Just say roleplay solves everything. So what I would tell a first-time DM is don't set up a predetermined story. Make sure all your players have their own goals, and just let them be the proactive ones and you be the reactive one for the most part.
Yeah,
And let them do what they do. Let them do whatever they're going to do.
yeah, I think that it is good. That he's giving a hopeful message to people. It's like, hey, just go do it. It'll be fine. And that's true. It's
Yeah.
just a game. It's just a game.
Yes.
But for some more solid advice, I like your advice. That's really good. I would say, don't play D&D. There's your first. No.
There we go.
Assuming
Got
this
'em.
person's playing D&D and they're having a session 0, that's good. Hopefully in that session 0 they realize they have good players and they all agree on things. They don't have just one guy who's like, you know what, I realize we're all going for this vibe, but I'm gonna play this.
Don't be that guy, and don't allow that guy.
Don't allow that guy to play at the table. And it's okay if you had one idea coming into the session 0 and you're like, oh, you know what, this is not the table for that, and just put that idea to the side. You can do it later. I mean, it's whatever. But for the DM, if I had to give, I'm trying to think of advice other than what you gave because your advice was so good.
Thank you.
If you're going to, for your first time, I'm trying to, because I don't know what the starting point of this player is. I'm just gonna say, don't roll behind the DM screen. That's what I'm gonna say. A lot of first-time DMs, that's where the fudging. We talked about fudging last time. That's where the real temptation is when it's your first time and you're worried about making mistakes, and so then you fudge because you think you made a mistake, or you're trying to make up for a mistake that you actually did make. Don't do that. If you're rolling the dice, then let them fall where they may. Also, part 2 of that, don't roll the dice if there's no point.
Yep.
There you go. Don't roll the dice if failure is meaningless, or if how do I say? If there's no way for them to move forward if they don't succeed on this check or whatever. Because a lot of time, first-time DMs will be like, "Oh, they're looking for the hint. They're searching the room. Okay, roll perception or investigation." And it's like, okay, if this is the only way for them to make it through, and there's also no time limit, then just tell them they find it. Anyways, hopefully anyone watching this is not a first-time DM, because I probably just confused them.
If that's the case, just no perception, investigation, or insight checks. No. You can use them, but
yeah,
they often get misused.
They definitely overused. I would say is definitely the I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I'm gonna say prognosis.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's see what Brennan has to say for the rest.
Rooting for you. This one's from @Gary26817438. 26 million and some odd Garys before this one. What in the world is a critical roll? Don't you mean a nat 20? You're thinking of a critical hit. A nat 20 is the highest possible roll on a 20-sided die. When you get that nat 20 roll, on an attack roll, it's an automatic hit and it deals double damage. Thrilling. Most DMs, and I would say the fun ones, not to put myself on one side of a fence, will homebrew that a nat 20 is also an automatic success on a skill check. Now, this does certain things to game balance. The game rules as written does not say that a nat 1 is an automatic failure or a nat 20 is an automatic success. But I am part of a camp of Dungeon Masters that believe if the possibility for success or failure does not exist on a given roll, why are you asking for it in the first place? Just say it's impossible. If you're gonna ask someone to roll a die and they roll a nat 20 and they still don't succeed, that doesn't feel very good. And we're here to feel good.
All right, so I really respect Brennan for just coming out and say, this is how the game actually works.
Yeah.
And then just saying that this is his homebrew thing. I do have some issues about the how, the way he makes nat 20s on any check automatic success. But what do you think?
Okay. So I don't like automatic success on a nat 20. I get why some people would do it. If you do it, it'll probably be fine. but I don't like it, but I get his logic of if it's not possible, why are you asking for it? Here's the thing. I don't know if it's possible or not because I'm not looking at your character sheet.
That's what I was gonna say.
Maybe it's possible for Tim, but it's not possible for Joe. They have different characters. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
I completely agree with that.
That's how the game works. Sometimes there's difficulty classes that are 21, 25, 29. Some people can reach 29, others can't.
Yeah.
That's what the rolling is supposed to represent in that case.
Yeah, and I understand kind of the social dynamic. It's like, well, why did you ask me to roll if there was no way for me to succeed? Which I'm saying, okay, one, your character would have no idea whether they were able to succeed or not. And two, I'm the dungeon master. I don't have time to be looking at all of your character sheets and knowing all your stats. Like, that's just not gonna happen. So sometimes you're gonna roll, get a nat 20, and you're not gonna succeed. That being said, if D&D doesn't have any like shades of success, as it were. Like you don't have like, oh, this is a soft success. Oh, this is a hard success. But if my player rolled a nat 20 and still failed, I would probably go a little easier on them in terms of failure.
Yeah. And you know what? As hard as I might have sounded just now about I don't like automatic success, looking back, anytime someone gets nat 20, I at least soften the failure, or if it's a success, I give them a little bit extra.
Yeah, right.
And pretty much a lot of DMs do that.
Yeah, one thing I think everyone can agree on is that nat 1s should not be automatic fails on skill checks. Apparently everyone except Larry and Studio, I hate that so much in Baldur's Gate 3. It's the worst. It's like my brother in Christ. I have a plus 11. This is a DC 10 check. There should be zero chance of me failing this. But whatever.
I agree with that. I think there's unfortunately a lot of people who wouldn't agree with you.
Well, that's okay. They're wrong. It's fine.
So this next question is from Andy Doodle 56. Question for hashtag Dungeon Masters. If D&D is improv, in parentheses, yes, and with dice, what do you do when the dice really don't want to tell the same story that you do?
This is a loaded question.
That the dice tell the story. You're taking a d20, you're rolling it. It's the most climactic roll of the campaign. I attack and get an 11. I needed a 19 or higher. I missed my opportunity. Perhaps I will be struck down the mountainside here. Your job as a dungeon master is to immediately start to think about what the story beat is that accompanies failure. Failure is not anathema to storytelling. Failure is a key and critical component of storytelling. Downbeats, moments of ruin and wrath, these are what drive heroes on to greater and greater ends. The reason we play with these dice is so that we can surrender control. Maybe this isn't the big heroic victory you thought it was. Maybe this is actually a setback.
Watching his games, I'm not sure he believes all that, but what he just said, good stuff. Really good stuff.
Yeah, I'm always tempted to say, why isn't your game like that? But I'll just rate his advice as it is, I guess.
Yeah, that advice is very good. The what did he say at the beginning? I can't remember what saying he said. Oh, the dice tell the story. That is
the dice.
Kind of true, mostly true. The characters also make choices, right? But the dice tell the story. Never, ever, ever fudge the dice.
I remember even when I was new at D&D and role-playing in general, thinking about trying to come to grips with what D&D even is supposed to be, because I'm like, oh, I think it's like a storytelling game. The DM tells a story, we kind of react to it. But how does that work if the dice are involved? How does that work if my backstory is involved? What if we have different backstories that want to go different ways and it doesn't fit in with the prescribed story? So even at the very beginning, I was kind of wondering about those things, trying to make sense of it. And I didn't get to a better understanding for years. But
yeah, we're a little retarded, but that's okay.
Very retarded. But yeah, that's something that you've got to understand when you're playing a role-playing game is you gotta follow the dice. You gotta follow the players. It's about, or the player characters. It's about what they're doing.
Yeah.
You can't. As a game master, you gotta let go of control.
It reminds me of the meme. I don't know if you've seen it. It's usually it's a play on the consent meme where it's like a man is like, I consent, and the woman says, I consent, and then God is there like, I don't. But it replaced it was like the myth of story gaming. It said, I consent, and then instead of it being God, it's just a bunch of dice, and they say, I don't.
Exactly.
That's pretty funny. All right,
Yeah,
good advice, Brennan. Just use it in your games. All right.
right.
At Wild Magic Surge, what's your favorite D&D 5e spell?
Oh god, I don't care.
Oh man, is it Shield? I love Shield.
No, Shield breaks the game.
It's just really fun. Reaction +5 to your armor class. Fun. I think favorite D&D 5e spell, Fireball, Fly. They're all good. I will say this: third level is the best spell level. All the most fun spells are third level spells.
There's not really much to react there, I don't think. Shield, I will say Shield is bad and should be removed from the game. But even like from role-playing perspective, because it's so jarring to the normal tempo of the game. Like reactions in general they're fine because they don't just say no to what just happened. But Shield does. It's just like, nope, doesn't happen. If you had to cast Shield before somebody attacked you, just like, the DM could say, oh, the bugbear swings its mace at you, and you just say, I cast shield. You don't say I cast shield, but you can say I don't even know what the components of shield are. But it's like I yell arcane in an arcane language, and a barrier appears before me. That makes sense. But when you're playing where, the bugbear attacks you, they hit you, and it's like, no, I cast shield. It's like, bro, what? Yeah, that's all. Sorry, yeah. I could stand on a soapbox, talk about Shield for a long time. I think we should move on.
I'll just say I like the idea of being a wizard and casting it to protect myself, even quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as far as mechanics, game balance is
it's rough.
Not great. It's fun to use, but
until the DM starts using it.
Yeah.
At Lee, 51,765,627. I want to learn to play Dungeons & Dragons. How do I find people willing to play with a newbie? Lee, I love playing with newbies. Playing with newbies is the best, but you are right. It is hard to find a group to play with. I think the best thing to do, honestly, is if you have people you're close with, you have a group of friends, all learn the game together. It doesn't matter if you're stumbling through it. It doesn't matter if it feels arcane or Byzantine or it's hard to get through. The important thing is you're spending time with people you care about and you love. If the crew around you, if your friends and network aren't as interested in tabletop games as you are, frequenting game nights at your local game store, have game nights where you can come and meet people and join a table. And there's also services online to find physical but also digital play groups. So Start Playing Games is a company that serves as a sort of matchmaker to not only hook people up with other people to play with, but also dungeon masters. Matching services for dungeon masters that charge for their services. There's free dungeon masters, there's free groups that get together there. All these things are available for you at your disposal. So there's a range of options, but yes, it is a challenge, but there are ways to do it.
Good thumbs up. Yeah. I think it's a lot easier to find players with D&D specifically because it's so popular.
Yep.
Good starting point.
Here's one from Bex Schwartz on Blue Sky. Thanks, Bex! Hi, intrepid hero Brennan Lee Mulligan. How does your prep for an adventure in someone else's campaign, such as Exandria and Critical Role's Calamity, differ from your preparation for the Worlds Beyond Number that you are building? Thank you for the question, Bex. I deeply appreciate it. Shout out to Worlds Beyond Number, the podcast that I do with Bria Iyengar, Erica Ishii, and Lou Wilson, edited by Taylor Moore. I was fortunate enough to get invited to come and run a series in Exandria for Critical Role as a part of their Exandria Unlimited series. Basically, whenever they need someone to crash a flying city somewhere in the history of Exandria, Matt calls me up, they light the little bat signal, and I come in and make everybody sad. At the core of your question is, how do you create your own world from scratch versus how do you create a meaningful story in a world created by someone else? Creating the homebrew world of Umora from scratch for this epic fantasy podcast, to stepping into Exandria, the incredible world of Matt Mercer and Critical Role that has been established over now 3 full campaigns and adapted into the Legend of Vox Machina animated shows. Pick your poison, right? A lot of DMs rely on pre-published modules. Exandria has incredible source books that give a DM the tools to jump into an established and exhaustively beautiful and rich fantasy world to just start telling your story in it. Other DMs actually sort of tend towards wanting to create from homebrew themselves, wanting to make their own setting and to be sort of the ultimate authority on where that world was and what was going to be going on in it. The prep is very different and they're both wonderful. Short answer is you got to do a lot more reading for this one. And in this one, you got to do a lot more writing. There's something really beautiful and delightful about writing fiction in someone else's setting. Anyone now who's writing a Star Wars show is someone who grew up probably loving Star Wars. So there's an amazing focus on coming to something that you are a fan of and getting to light a little candle in that world.
I'll let you go first on this one.
I don't know anything about those settings, but I'll kind of maybe use Star Wars because that'll help me in my mind. One thing I'd say is know your audience. Know kind of what they're expecting. If it's like a franchise, which movies have they seen? Do they know the ones from the 70s? Are they just started right now? What he said is good. Do your reading. Read up on it. So you can present something believable to them. Something that not just lore collecting, but making sure that you're respecting the source material. I mean, you can change it, of course, but is presenting the spirit of it in a good faith, I'd say.
Yeah.
But good advice.
So I think this will be interesting because I actually completely disagree. I think
Okay.
that he answered, I mean, he didn't answer the wrong question. He just doesn't understand how RPGs should be played. He's liking it all to, like, even says at the end, like, well, yeah, well, all the people writing for Star Wars now are fans that used to be able to, like, but that's completely missing the point. No one is writing, or you shouldn't be writing, a game. You shouldn't, like, you're not writing anything. He said one involves more reading, the other one involves more writing. All right, so that's kind of towards like when it's not someone else's world, you're making your own home world. It doesn't involve a lot of writing. You shouldn't be writing a bunch of stuff. All right, but even with the reading, I don't think that you should be trying to fit your, how do I say? You shouldn't be trying to fit your story, quote unquote, into the world, into the story of whatever you're going into. Like maybe it may have been forced, like they may say like, well, it has to not contradict blah 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 because there's certain things, right? But in my opinion, if you're playing in an established setting, you should just everything that happened before, sure, all right. There's history that's already happened, but everything happening from when you start the game and afterwards, it should not at all be beholden to the story of whatever genre you're looking at. Like, if you're playing in Star Wars, I don't care if you start literally at the same time as A New Hope, right? If the characters are involved in the battle above, was it Endor? I can't remember. I think it's Endor. If they're involved in that battle and they fail, then they fail. The Death Star is not destroyed. All right? If they're not involved in it, then who cares? Yeah, sure, it happens, I guess. But you cannot be beholden to the pre-written lore when the characters are there. Like, it's different now.
Yeah, absolutely. That brings up an interesting question for me. I might have for you. So, say they're playing at the time of A New Hope, and the characters, they go and kill Darth Vader. and they go and ruin the whole prophecy.
Impossible. But yes, go ahead.
Impossible, but just say they do it. That's good. You're letting them, you're not making them beholden to your prefabricated story or preset story. However, since there's a prophecy, would you kind of make it in some convoluted way that, oh, if you look at it in this perspective, Darth Vader still was the chosen one? Would you do something like that?
It depends. Like,
because at least in my thinking, I'm like, that's the metaphysics of the setting. It's like, that has to be true. Or like in Lord of the Rings, the metaphysics is like good will overcome evil.
mm-hmm.
So it's like, how do you grapple with that, with the fact that the players can do anything and they can change anything?
Yeah, that's something you should probably discuss in session 0. Like, like specifically for the Lord of the Rings one. For the Star Wars one, I mean, I'm going to be honest. If I'm running a Star Wars game, I don't care what it is, there's basically 0 chance they're going to be able to kill Darth Vader. Because I'm not running movie Darth Vader. So,
Yeah.
Maybe I would avoid that quandary altogether. But let's say for, like you were saying, just as a hypothetical, I think if they were to kill Darth Vader, he was, even the fact that Darth Vader being the chosen one was kind of made up after the fact, because the original trilogy happened and then the prequel trilogy, like, actually Darth Vader, Anakin is the chosen one, which I was like, okay, whatever, that's made up because George Lucas made it up. So I would say that the fact that there is a prophecy doesn't necessarily negate the fact that the characters themselves could be part of that prophecy, Qui-Gon could be wrong.
Yeah. You just gotta roll with it.
Yeah, it's not.
That's something really interesting to think about.
Yeah. All right, let's continue.
At Flora Rune, a question for D&D and TTRPG friends. What is your favorite magical item? The immovable rod! Small metal wand that has a button on it, and when you click it, it cannot be moved in space. That might sound trivial. The ship collides with a ruler, the fighter class, though. Movable cannot be moved no matter what.
Yeah, I don't care about magic items.
What's a magic item? No.
Excalibur. Khalid-Foch. That's my favorite magic item. There you go.
Based.
The genie and the Chaos Emeralds from Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't like.
The Chaos Emeralds you so cleverly disguised as elven rings.
Yes. The
that were not elven.
You mean the Chaos Emeralds? LeBron chuckling. All right.
The immovable rod. This next one's from Brycing Wolf on Reddit. What common D&D related behavior or quirk really grinds your gears? Mine is when people call the fighter class the warrior or call the wizard the mage. Not even sure why, but it makes me hate you a little. Brycing Wolf, do not give in to hate. They know not what they do. I think for me,
give in to hate. It makes you stronger.
The biggest pet peeve.
Drink that haterade, boy.
A player making a choice as a character that really grinds the adventure to a halt. I think sometimes people will hide behind the sort of lens of it's what my character would do, and will do things that are a little bit antisocial at the table. And ultimately, there's not that much a dungeon master can do if you decide that your character wouldn't go on an adventure. If a DM comes out and says, your village is in danger, your loved ones are in jeopardy, the fate of the world hangs in the balance, and you alone hold the sword of destiny. And you go, I run, I'm getting out of Dodge, good luck. Well, that's kind of the story over.
I guess I'll go first on this one. So, in his example, specifically, I think that is valid. I think that if your entire family is killed, your village is destroyed, and your character knows that, this is like somehow some God speaks from the heavens, like it's your duty, I've chosen you, I think your character, if you're playing in an RPG, should probably respond to that. it's okay to like maybe run away. That could be very interesting because like I mean like the story of Jonah in the Bible is like all about him running away and then coming back. But
Gideon.
so it doesn't yeah, it doesn't ruin the story. But I can see how in that's a curveball for the DM. And if your character is absolutely like there's no way for them to come back, then yeah, I think okay, this is kind of stupid. Maybe you made a coward for a character, and you're not even trying to you're not even letting that character change in any way when he should be changing, right? Like not
Yep.
because like oh you need to change so we can go on the adventure, but because that's what a human would do. Like that's a life altering event. Um, but running away, that could be very cool. Like, oh, he's running away, maybe he'll come back. But his thing where he's like, oh, well, you can't, they make a decision that just throws the adventure off the rails. It's like, there is no rails. What do you mean? There shouldn't be any rails. I
Yeah.
don't think he said rails because I think he knows he should avoid
It-
that word.
It's so funny when people do that. They never want to say they're on a railroad,
Oh.
but they say you derailed the game. I'm like,
He says you make a choice that grinds the adventure to a halt. I think even that has origins in like rail.
probably.
Like,
I'm like, what do you mean by
because
that?
I mean, automotive like tires don't grind you to a halt. Like the only thing I can think that grinds to a halt is rails on a train.
You got a point.
That's so maybe he knows. It's just the dissonance in his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just I don't agree. Oh, sorry, pet peeve. That I forgot that was the whole thing. My pet peeve is actually similar to the other guy. I think the reason why he gets so annoyed by people calling the fighter a warrior and the wizard a mage is because of my pet peeve, which is they don't know the rules. You should learn the rules to the game you play. It's okay to not know the rules when you first start, but learn the rules. That's it.
2 years later, what do I roll?
Don't give me flashbacks.
We kicked that guy out. We kicked him to the curb.
We made him walk home.
Made him walk home. He got home at 3 in the morning.
Oh yeah.
Then we kicked him as our friend too.
That was the whole thing. That's yeah. All right.
We don't normally do that.
No, I do that to all my friends. If they forget my birthday, I drive them 8 hours away from their house and then make them walk home.
Chad behavior.
Is there anything you wanted to say?
But I want to say back to his question. I feel like every time he answers a question, I'm like, I fundamentally disagree. Then he gives a very good example. I'm like, well, yeah, if that's the case, I agree with that. Like, you shouldn't make a character that's a complete coward, never wants to adventure or do anything. Yes.
Yeah, even cowardly characters in adventures, they still do things. They're just cowardly.
Yes. Yes, exactly. But yeah, I should be able to play a thief that steals from the party, or maybe I'm a evil warlock and I kill the paladin in his sleep because it's what my character would do. I think that's good stuff.
Yeah, and
but I mean, to be understanding, most D&D games, it's assumed you're going to be in a cooperative party, so I get that. But I don't think that lends itself to role-playing in its purest sense if you always have to be completely cooperative, even if it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and to the same thing, like with your examples, like the thief that steals from the party, that kind of annoys me. But if that's like what your character would do, I mean, that's fine. They're probably just trying to, get some stuff and then leave because thieves generally don't stick around when they've stolen from somebody. But it's also completely fine for when the party finds out that they've been stealing from, or that the thief has been stealing from them, for them to just kill him. Yeah,
exactly.
or just turn him into the authorities. That's fine. I think that could cause really, interesting things. And then with the warlock, I think that could also be interesting. Like someone sees him convening with his patron and realize what's going on. It's like, oh man, this is serious. Once again, we should kill him. No room for redemption. Don't give them redemption. Give them a blade in the heart.
Yes. It's almost as if these problems solve themselves. Role-playing solves everything.
Amazing. Chauner, may you be remembered.
Indeed.
Actually, I am incorrect. What's your favorite weird niche bit of lore that isn't fully developed? D&D, an infinite tower
I don't care about
arises
D&D lore.
God.
It sucks.
Speak. At Aiden Lair says,
I like the Netherese. They have floating islands, floating castles,
I don't
or
care.
floating cities. but yeah, that's all I know. I generally don't really care.
why did people think playing D&D was satanic? You're literally fighting Hellspawn half the time. That's a great question, Aiden.
Same thing with
There's sort of
Doom.
two answers to this. One is D&D, by involving elements of folklore and mythology, had elements of things adjacent to the occult.
Because look at what the player's handbook looks
Yeah, that's
like.
true.
They just look at the idol,
Yeah, right.
and that's all they need to know.
It was a pretty bad marketing scheme.
There's also some interesting history, but of the stuff
There's a
that
deeper
was
answer,
going
which is
around.
that back in the 1980s, it was like evangelical moral panic about that. But really, the evangelical right in this country needs to manufacture outrage to hold on to its voting bloc. So that's your real answer. It was arbitrary, as the targets of their outrage always are. Fight the power. Are you going to include that?
A, base for sticking to what he believes in.
Base for just saying what he believes, yes. Even if, to be fair, some of the time I agree with what he said, but there are people generally get that mixed up and lump everybody into that camp. But yes, base Brennan for being true to himself. Good job, Brennan.
Yeah.
I don't really want to talk about politics. I don't care.
Don't care.
This next question comes to us from Shuffleupagus. I wonder how much prep.
Let's do this as the last one. I gotta get going after
dang.
this.
No, we didn't get to the good stuff. Let's skip this one. This one's
Okay.
The system, paragraphs of abilities. Matt, and that's about it for you. Most active, most joy to your players and your table. This one's from @YumDM. How many different editions of D&D do you actively
this is lame
play?
also. Sorry, I want to try to get to the end.
Is great to your experience. I heard or build that was balance. And the druids, letting the druids talk.
What
I
is
want
that?
dog
He talks about balance as well. Yeah.
to talk. @NotCavid. Okay, but what if I said I wanted to play a Wild West setting D&D campaign? What then?
Oh man, yeah. Sorry, I forgot. We can just say this is the last one. We don't have to keep going. Then the question before this one, he talked about how he plays other games. He's like, oh yeah, other games are nice, But then this one, well, let's just watch it through.
We've played in many, many different kinds of settings and genres all across the spectrum. We have Fantasy High, where we play D&D in a high school for fantasy heroes. We play The Unsleeping City. At Madison Square Garden is a live show. We're playing D&D at the Garden in New York City because The Unsleeping City is set in a magical version of New York City. We even played a Starstruck Odyssey set in the sci-fi setting of Anarch era, written by noted comics author Elaine Lee. Also my mom, if you can believe that. I adapted my mom's comic book series into a D&D campaign. There's a lot of people who enjoy home brewing and stretching the creative boundaries, chop shopping or jury rigging what they want their game to be about. Everyone has a different play style, and all are valid and good.
I said this to you before. I'm like, I know everyone has their own way of having fun, and we shouldn't say some are better than others, but some are horrible.
Some are definitely worse than others.
Yeah, the 45-minute combat round.
Well,
I'm not doing that anymore.
So what I would say, because the person was talking about, what about a Wild West in D&D? And I was expecting him just to say play a different game, because that would be my advice. Like, don't put all that work on yourself. Just play a different game. But he did.
Yeah,
He was like, yeah, you can homebrew, and it's like, duh. I can homebrew as much as I want. I'll end up designing a whole new thing, and then it's like, oh, but it's still D&D because that's where I started. It's like, no, dude, you dismantled the entire system. That'd
be so much work.
I know it would be so much work. I did it. I tried to make it more fun for the kind of worlds that I wanted to play in, and it was like, wait a minute, this is dumb. Just play a different game. It's fine. It's fine to just say, D&D it Hast, since it's the most popular, it tries to really spread itself out and say, oh, it can do anything. But it's not designed to do anything. I mean, there's so much lore in it. There's so many like rules as like, okay, well, if this is the rule, this has to happen. I would have just told the person, just play a different game, dude. There's so many. I'm not actually sure how many Wild West games there are, but there's definitely other systems that would handle a Wild West game much better than a game where
Yeah.
90, I don't know how many classes can cast magic, but maybe you don't have magic in your Wild West game. And
Yeah.
don't play D&D.
It's like, are you gonna reflavor all the spells as special techniques or something? Like, it's just, you don't even need all that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Everyone has a different play style and all are valid and good. I disagree.
Yeah.
It's all right. Maybe it's
I'm
valid
not-
and good to you. Maybe if you enjoy it, I don't care. Yeah, fine, whatever. But it's not valid and good to me.
If people are more into the war game than the role play or the 3D or 4D that I like, that's fine. But if they're into, like I said, 45-minute combat round, making references and joking the whole time, nothing's happening, nothing's getting done. I'm sorry, no, that's just bad.
Agreed. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have. You want to take us out?
We're done.
Base.
This
End of video.
This was fun. I'm glad we had fun.
Yeah, right. There's a little bit more to the video, but I don't really feel like doing a
Yeah.
part 3.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody take care.
Take care, guys. Brennan, good advice. He should follow it. All right, bye.